Hey guys, I figured we'd do a video real quick talking about some breeding stuff and kind of adjusting on the fly to weather patterns and how that affects what I'm doing with feeding and pairing and all that kind of stuff. I've got one of the male T-positive 007s here with me. This guy is available. You can see him on Morph Market. You can see videos of them on YouTube as well in case anybody is interested. This is male number 5. Well, let's get into the video and talk about some things that I do. That I have a schedule and I plan, but things change. So let's talk about it. So basically, when the season starts, or even well before, usually in the previous spring, I start kind of planning things in my head. Meaning I'm planning when I'm going to start pairing, who I'm going to be pairing. A lot of times I know who I'm going to be pairing years in advance. But there are always things that change as time goes on. Something happens, you may lose an animal, you may add an animal, maybe something's ready sooner or later than you expected, or you just sit down and you're thinking about things and you want to change. But I'll plan those things in advance for the most part, have an idea at least of what I'm going to be doing. And then I'll have a schedule in mind. So for this year, I really planned on starting to pair probably around Thanksgiving. But at this point, the weather's kind of thrown a loop in there, and we have a bunch of rain coming up. So I just fed a bunch of animals on the 17th of October. I'm shooting this video on the 21st of October, even though you guys aren't going to see it until this weekend. And so I'm enjoying watching this guy move around. I've handled these guys a little bit. They're pretty fun, really, really well behaved, all things considered for baby bloods. So anyhow, as it's tracking my face right now, see that? So my plan was to pair later, so I've been feeding on a little bit of a, more frequent schedule as we roll into the season. Well, now I just fed on the 17th. As I'm sitting here now, I've got food thawing to my left in the kitchen here because I looked at the weather, and starting Sunday night into Monday, we're going to get about a week's worth of rain. And so I don't want to miss that opportunity to pair animals, even though it's a little bit earlier than I anticipated. That weather pattern is really, really going to push them around. When that pressure starts to change, they sense that. And so I'm actually thawing food, and I'm going to be feeding snakes again that I just fed 4 days ago, which normally I would not recommend. It is not something that I would do as a routine thing. But what I want to do is encourage them to eat kind of heavy as we roll into the season, give them that period of plenty that makes them say, hey, you know what, food's plentifully available. My body's in good shape. I'm in good condition. I've got fat reserves. I'm ready to roll. Let's start some breeding activity. And so I won't feed the males so much because they just ate and that's good enough, but the girls are going to eat right now that I'm going to be pairing up. And then that way I'm feeding them tonight on Thursday. That gives them all, tonight, gives them all day Friday, all day Saturday, all day Sunday to digest before I introduce the males late Sunday night before that pressure starts to change. And I'll watch the pressure and look for the time period where I think it's going to be most opportune. And so you've got to be flexible with this stuff and understand that these animals are pushed on a cycle off of the weather quite a bit, at least when it comes to blood and short-tailed pythons. The weather really does affect their cycle more than probably anything else that I deal with. And you can do things with light cycle, you can do things with food cycling. I find mine just really naturally cycle based on the time of year, and it's pretty crazy because that room is blocked from all natural light. So I control the light cycle, and I really don't do anything to fluctuate it in the winter, but just the changes in pressure, the changes in weather patterns, they can just sense it. And even though the room has a thermostat and the heater in there and everything that keeps it at a pretty steady temperature, they can just feel the difference. They can tell when it's super hot outside versus super cold outside. So I think living here in New England definitely helps what I'm doing. If I were to be down south somewhere, I'd probably have to adjust a little bit of what I was doing to breed the same species, and just either use light cycle a little bit more, or find a way to give them a little bit more of a temperature drop, or really utilize those rains and snows and those patterns where that pressure changes. If you are able to do so safely for the animals, it's a nice idea when you get weather patterns like this and it starts to rain, to open the windows in the room, let that air come in. Obviously, if it's wintertime and it's snowing and it's too cold, you can't do that, or if there's some other danger that would present itself by doing that, then you wouldn't. But it's a good opportunity to let the animals really feel that, and really feel those weather changes and weather patterns, and really get them going. And if you find you're not seeing breeding activity, even though you've paired up in a storm and you think everything's cycling and ready, you can spray down the cage a little bit. And I find I like to spray the top, in this case the Christmas tree tubs. I'll spray the top down and get it really wet so that the water kind of drips down onto the animals and gives them almost a natural, like, humid and rainy environment, to try to stimulate that if I haven't seen enough out of them. Just one of those tricks to have in your arsenal that can work sometimes. So I hope you guys are seeing just how great these babies are. He's just chilling here, doing his thing. So I don't know why nobody's taking advantage of these guys. They're going to be absolutely smoking animals when they get older. They're already smoking animals now, but I mean, just imagine when this thing gets a little bit bigger, and hasn't even had its first shed yet. Eating great though. Things are killing frozen thawed. I actually just gave them their largest meals on the 17th, 4 days ago, but you can see it's fully digested now. Their metabolism is a little bit faster when they're younger, than when they're older. So these guys have already fully digested in 4 days and are, just doing their thing. Now, body-wise, the body is still probably at elevated levels and things, but it'll probably shift back soon, and I'll feed these guys in another probably 5 days or so. They're eating every 8 to 10 right now at this age, but super cool snakes. So yeah, so you have to be ready to adjust to the weather patterns as they come. You've got to be ready to make some changes, because we all have a plan, or you should have a plan going in, but the weather really dictates the way these animals move and work and cycle. And so I'm watching my girls now, looking for signs. Some people always ask, what are signs that females are thinking about breeding? You'll notice even in an ambient environment, there's usually one part of their cage that's cooler. So you'll see them seek that. Obviously, if they have a hot spot, you'll see them on the hot spot less than normal. They still may go and bask after a meal or during a shed cycle, or just occasionally during the day, but just more often than not, they start to spend more time in the cooler area than typical. You might also see them wrapped around their water bowls or similar shaped objects within their cage. They tend to do that when they are building follicles and getting ready to start breeding or thinking about breeding. I find in some of my females that they get moodier, a little bit more hormonal, a little bit more agitated. And it doesn't mean they go from super calm to biting or anything like that, but they're just less patient. So a snake that normally might not be that huffy starts to get a little more vocal, maybe pulls away a little more. You see a little bit more muscle flex when you touch them, just a little bit more agitated with your presence and being bothered, and they would rather have more time alone and be left alone. And I also notice with my girls, they get very ravenous food-wise. And so even with Sumatrans that have a very strong food response, it'll get even stronger when they're building follicles and they're getting to that point, or right before they build follicles. And you'll notice, they really come out and strike food hard. They are insatiable. They just want as much food as you'll throw at them. And obviously you don't want to take advantage of that and overfeed your animals. But my girls right now, when they're coming into this season, they would probably eat every couple of days if I offered them food like that. Obviously, I would never ever do that. This is an isolated situation with me feeding, only because they're probably going to be paired up for about a week, and it'll be an extended period of time before I feed them again. So I'm just trying to take advantage of the weather pattern by getting ahead of it, having the animals fed and ready to go. And so I will keep you guys updated with the process as time goes on. If you are interested in one of these males, I have 3 of them. They are all equally as wonderful temperament-wise. This one might be a little bit more bold than the other 2, meaning like when you open the tub, this is the one that comes forward, comes right to you, is very interested in what's going on. Even if it's just a food response and just whatever, it's just much more confident than the other 2. But they're all equally handleable. None of them have ever given me a problem, tried to bite, struck, anything like that. All of them are unfrozen thawed. All of them are really pretty animals and going to be very nice. You know, obviously you have selective origins on dad's side and cold-blooded earth on mom. So you've got some stellar bloodlines in here. Animals that will really do wonderful things for you if you're going to breed them, or if you just want a really pretty pet with a great personality. Whatever it is, they're there. And pretty motivated to sell them right now. My car is currently out of commission to add to my list of financial crisis, I guess you could say. So I'm either going to have to come up with a new car, or once I figure out what's wrong with this one, fix it. But I personally think the motor might be blown, so I don't think that I'm going to fix it with 330,000 miles on it. But we will see what happens. But anyways, very motivated to move these, so if you're interested, shoot me a message. You can email me. You can message me on Instagram, same name as on here, or on my Facebook. Don't message the alternate account on Facebook. That's only when I'm in Facebook jail. If I'm not in Facebook jail, I rarely check that account. People message me all the time. So if you see alt in the name, not the one you want to message. All right. Thank you guys. We'll see you soon.